All right, guys, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to get this presentation started. Sorry if I pulled you away from Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune or something, but I think tonight's topic, you guys will be pretty interested in it. Um, Tonight we're going to talk about how to throw a cast net 101. And this is part of the Navionics webinar series. And myself, Captain Anthony Grassi, and Captain Frank Crescitelli. So this is a little blurb about me. I've been a captain for over 20 years. I've participated and won in many saltwater tournaments. I'm a board member of a conservation organization that benefits the environment. We take children fishing and work with Wounded Warrior programs. I'm privileged to be part of a few pro staffs that I've been with for a long time, including Navionics, of course, and I'm a Raymarine Pro ambassador. Costa Sunglasses, Guide Secret Lures, Eco Pro Tungsten, and TFO, Sims, and Sage. So I've been with these guys for a while, and I'm really happy with the companies that I'm working with. Frank Crescitelli, on the other hand, he's out actually on a remote right now where we did a video earlier with the step-by-step instructions. And Captain Frank is pretty much one of the most visible and successful guides in New York and New Jersey area. Again, he's on many major pro staffs. This season, Frank embarked on a new journey of a TV show, which I am part of on a couple of the episodes, called The Fin Chasers, and it airs on Saturday mornings at 5 o'clock. So you might want to set your DVRs if you guys don't get up that early. It's also going to be on Destination America and also Sportsman's Channel. So again, the course is going to be called Cast Nets 101, and I'm going to show you the benefits of using a cast net versus buying bait. We're going to discuss a little bit about the parts of the net, and I'm going to show you one of a very easy method, really a four-part method, step method to throw a cast net. Okay, and if you have any questions, you could just click on the button on the bottom that says chat, and at the end of the presentation I'll review and I'll try to answer as many questions as possible live. If we run out of time, of course, you're more than welcome to email me at agrassi@navionics.com. So the first part of this is really to talk about the basic parts of a cast net. And you're going to start off with a hand line, which is usually made out of a polypropylene line or cord. And one of the reasons they use that is because it floats, which is a good attribute if you don't tie your end of your line to your hands. That's then attached to a swivel, which the swivel is usually a heavy 700-pound large swivel, and that allows your line to twist as the net is descending. Your horn, which is in the center of the net, one of the features that I like to look for a good quality net is to have a large horn, so that your brails, your lines, the mono that attaches to the base of the circumference of the net has plenty of room to move freely. And it also allows water to exhaust through the net much quicker, which then again lets your net sinks faster. People don't always realize that the mono mesh actually will slow a net's descent. Having larger openings would let it go quicker, but if you have a large horn, it'll actually allow the water to exhaust faster than allowing your net to sink quicker. The lead line, which is the line that the sinkers are attached to. Some of the things in a quality net that you're looking for, that this is a lead line, not a polypropylene rope. You know, I find in the cheaper brand nets that they don't use a lead core line. They'll use just a hollow propylene line, which you know, it stops your net from sinking. So it's not really good on a quality net. The sinkers that are scattered, usually 1 foot next to each other, depending on the weight of the net. It could be 1 pound per square foot, and as much as 2 pounds per foot. And then, of course, the netting. These type of nets are your better pyramid-shaped nets. These are panel net. What I suggest always using is a 10-foot net is what we're going to be talking about, and I'm going to actually show you the demo video using a 10-foot net. And when it is open completely, you'll have a 20-foot diameter. Okay, let's move on. Now, successful fishermen have one thing in common, and that is they know the indigenous species of bait fish and how to use them. So even though I'm in the Northeast, I'm in New York, New Jersey area where my charter business is, you could use this same anywhere in the country. You could say, you know, wherever you're in Florida, in the Carolinas, you know, bait. If you know the natural bait in that area, you'll have a better chance of catching more fish. And one of the only problems is it can be very expensive. Here in the Northeast, I'm giving you some prices that were market this summer. Bunker, which is our large menhaden, was fetching as much as $2 to $3 per fish. And most of the time, they were frozen. Now, having fresh bait fish, of course, is going to definitely give you the upper hand over fish that are frozen. Peanut bunker, 8-ounce bag, you know, small Ziploc bag, you're looking at $4.75. Spearing, small snapper bait or bait people use for bottom fishing and stuff. A small bag is $3.75, and a larger bag with the larger spearing in it can be, you know, $4.75, $5. So one of the reasons of learning how to throw a cast net would be to, you know, save money on bait, plus getting the freshest bait and also getting bait in the area that you're fishing, so you'll know the fish are usually on these types of baits. Now, one of the things in the Northeast that we do, if you can't throw a cast net, is snagging. And a lot of times I watch snaggers all around me throwing these heavy weighted treble hooks for an hour to catch maybe a dozen or so baits, and they're ripping these treble hooks through these giant pods of bait, and as you can see, the fish is injured, so they're not going to last as long in the live well. And also, by ripping these through the water, I've seen many of these treble hooks come flying out at the angler, usually piercing some body part or somebody else. And plus the gel coat repairs. Having these treble hooks smashing against the side of your boat it's just too time consuming. I would rather go out, throw the net once, and get myself 50 pieces, which is more than enough for the day, and not waste time, you know, snagging. So is it worth the investment? And that's something you're going to have to decide. 10-foot nets that are really good quality nets, like Guide Secret nets, some of the Florida custom-made nets. In Staten Island, there's a guy named Percy who also makes quality cast nets. they could fetch as much as $300 or even more. Now, it's when I'm doing seminars and boat shows and fishing shows, and I'm just talking about nets, and a person will come up to me and say, hey, I bought a $30 net at, you know, Bass Pro Shops, and I'm having a difficult time throwing it. Can you give me a hint? And it's, you know, it's really tough to tell them that, you know, it's easier to cast a more quality hand woven net that is made of quality materials versus, and also a panel net versus a one panel net, which you could see on the bottom right here. And that type of net is just, they simply put the lead and polypropylene line around the outer edges, and it's one big panel, and at the top they kind of squish everything together. Now with the quality net, like you see on the left, with the lead core line and the panel net, you can see this pyramid shape. It actually unfolds a lot easier than a, you know, one sheet of mono mesh, and they just put weights at the bottom and bring, as you can see, bunch up the top of the net at the top. Another good feature about a good quality net would be the lead line, which I was talking about, you know, with the parts of the nets. A lot of times, you know, the cheaper nets will give you a 20-foot, you know, length line. And I find even in throwing the net in, you know, 15 feet depths of water, you want at least a 50-foot line. And when I'm throwing in deeper water, as much as 20, 30 feet, I would add even another 50 feet of line, which allows the net to sink and not have any tension on it. So when I tell people, yeah, it is easier to cast a quality net, it's pretty much proven in my demonstrations. So one of the big things that whenever we sell nets, and I see a lot of guys, you know, when they first start throwing the net, is a lot of times we could take a lot more bait than we really need. Okay, a lot of times I have on a charter, you know, I'll take a certain amount of what you see there, large menhaden. My live well could only keep X amount alive, and at the end of the day, if you have some left over, the bait's still fresh enough that you can throw it back into the water pretty much unharmed. But if you overcrowd your live wells and you take too much bait, in the marina, you're going to wind up dumping a lot of dead bait into the water. So one of the things I like to talk about in most of my presentations about conservation is take what you really need. Okay, even if you keep a few and you want to freeze them for the future, but still, one of the problems I see with people netting, especially in the beginning, is that they take way too much bait. Okay, think about, you know, when you went to the store to buy them at $3 a piece, did you really ever buy $150 worth of bunker or of other, you know, mullet or herring, things like that? So again, you know, take what you need, return what you don't. So this is going to be the video presentation part with Captain Frank. We recorded it early. We were trying to actually do a live broadcast from the Atlantic City Boat Show, but during some tests this week, we found out that the Wi-Fi wasn't strong enough to really stream a video. So in this video, we're going to pretty much show you a very simple step-by-step instructions on how to throw a cast net. And then the next video that we're going to do is how to care for your net. So let me just switch over here to the video, and we'll get that started. Just bear with me. Now, hopefully, the streaming will work on most of everybody's devices, and you'll be able to follow along with Captain Frank.
Okay, we're here today to discuss the easiest method that I know that's teachable about how to throw a cast net. If you've ever tried to throw a cast net before and you have not been successful, forget everything you've ever learned before. This method is simple, it's easy to remember, there's 4 steps, and throughout the process, you can check yourself to make sure that you've completed each step properly. If at any point throughout these steps, you find that the check does not check out, stop, and start over. So each net comes in this really neat screw top bucket. In this bucket, store your net. You want to store the net dry. Once the net is opened, they'll become much more limp. And we recommend that before you use the net, that you soak it at least overnight. 1 cup of fabric softener with 5 gallons of water. Let it sit in the bucket overnight, and the monofilament will really soften up. It'll make the net easier to throw, and it'll also make the net last. You do not, I repeat, you do not want to store the net wet in water. It's made out of monofilament. Monofilament absorbs water. So you want to store the net dry. After each use, rinse the net out, get all the scales and any fish slime out of it, seaweed or whatever. Rinse it thoroughly, wash it in soap and water, and then you would hang it dry, or just leave it out, not in direct sunlight. Let it dry out. After it's dry, put it back into the bucket. So your net's going to come in a bucket like this, and you can see that it still has some memory. So this is our proprietary line. This is what we call the super stiff lead line. This helps the net open up, and more than just help the net open when you cast it, it will help the net stay open once the net lands in the water as it sinks. So all this little bends and kinks will come out of this after you use it a few times and after you let it sit in the fabric softener overnight. So we'll take the net out, and first thing we want to do is to untangle the line. This net is made with 50 feet of hollow core polypropylene line. This line floats, so if for some reason the net would come off of your wrist after you throw it, this line will float. So the first part of this is to take the line and hook it on your arm. We're going to talk about this from a right-handed perspective. I'm right-handed. Your right hand, your dominant hand for me, will become clear after each step. So we'll do a step. After we complete that step, your right hand or your dominant hand your left hand, your lefty. Your dominant hand becomes free. So we're going to hook above the elbow is the place that I like to do it, on my left arm, the least dominant of your hands, okay? And then we'll just proceed to make long wraps with the hand line. You want to make nice long wraps and have as little material in your hand as possible. So the longer the wraps, the less material you'll have in your hand. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to make sure that the net is not tangled. And again, this is a brand new net, just come out of the box. It's going to be a little stiff. So we want to get the net away from us. We want this to be tight. We don't want this net to be bunched up before we start gathering it. So, just to catch up, step 1 is completed. We've gathered the hand line. At that point, I used my right hand. I gathered the line. Step number 1 completed. Line's in my left hand. My right hand is free. Okay. Now we will reach up, and then holding the net with our dominant hand, we will reach around from the front, grab the net at the halfway point, and then make my first loop clockwise, thumbs together. Watch, I won't even make a wrap. I'll just put my thumbs together. It'll make the loop the right way. Watch. Boom. Clockwise loop. Okay? Got it right there? Clockwise loop. All right. So, gather the net. Again, we don't want to start up high. We want to be about waist high. together right there. Remember, we can't slip it that easily. Something's wrong. Okay, so we choked up. We're about waist high with our left hand now holding all the rope and the net. And now we start our process, making a front part of the net and a back part of the net. We start by taking a little piece of the net and just dropping it on the right-hand side. So simply just drop it down. And here's where I start. And we're going to exaggerate this point. There's our front. There's our back. Take 1/3 from the front and pull it onto the right-hand side. Okay? We're going to pick up the back part of the net, place it in our teeth, but that's only the placeholder. What's going to end up holding the net is my pinky. Place the back part of the net in our teeth. Stand up a little bit, not too much, but you'll pull the weights together. Lock our pinky in. The rest of our hand, reach from underneath and grab the material. Now you are loaded. You are ready to throw. Now, this comes to another point where we can check ourselves. Okay? If we're holding the net like this, and we cannot see inside the net, see this? This is inside the net. You can't see inside the net, something is wrong. What do I mean by that? Well, if it was like this, you can't see inside the net. And that's because you had the back braille line tangled or something. So you see how I dropped it? And now you can see inside the net. Okay. We're going to start facing away from the bait. We're going to not go back and swing around. We're going to start from a dead stop, facing away from the bait. As I come around, I'm going to raise my arm up and slowly open this hand and make a complete arch. I'll do it one time, and then I'll show you what I mean. Okay. Now, I've gone slow, and you'll see the net's not fully open. I didn't blow it open because I want to take my time. I want to make it slow, so you can see. But if you open that net that much, every time you threw it, you would have more bait than you probably ever gathered in your life. This is a very basic technique. This technique will work 90% of the time, and the net will open up 90% of the way. And that's the way you throw the net, catch bait. So the net is out. We need to pull it in. Let's say, for instance, in this time we have no bait in it. It's not going to happen here. We reach in, grab the net. Now, this is a good time to talk about something that, because this is a good net, happens every time. But to make sure that it's not tangled, this is the way to check. And any good net, when it's in a neutral position, this barrel will be out of the horn. And these braille lines, these lines here, are tight to the bottom of the net, to the lead line where that's attached. So that's a neutral. That's a starting point. So once again, we gathered the net in our left hand. Our right hand was free. We then reach up with the net, grab it halfway down, make a wrap with our hand, and then thumbs together. Okay? One more time in slow motion. Thumbs together. And that makes the clockwise wrap. Okay? At that point, everything should be hanging freely. You see how I just had that? It should fall just out. But if this part of the net, this part of the line trapped around the net, you would see that that's not right. Okay? Everything should be free, hanging free. At this point, we're going to lift up the net. Now, what happened to me here on the grass is going to happen to you in the water. You're going to get leaves and twigs and things in the net. So at this point, you can just lift the net up like this and let the stuff fall out. Okay? So, again, checkpoint number 1. We need to be able to choke up on the net. We don't want to be holding the net up here and start our process. We want our left hand about waist high. We simply choke up on the net. And if it doesn't go that smoothly, something is wrong. You might have your wrist the wrong way, or you have this yoke going the other way, all wrong. Remember the clockwise wrap. We put our thumbs together, That'll help us come out that way. So, just want to be able to choke up and be about waist high. Again, dominant hand becomes free after each step. So this is where we're going to start to divide the net. We're going to divide the net into a front part of the net and a back part of the net. Take a little piece of the net, put it on the side. There is our front. Here is our back. 1/3 of the net on your right-hand side or your dominant side. Okay? And here we go. 1/3 of the net there. That's the front. This is the back. Place the back part in our teeth. Pull this line up a little bit. And you want to gather this up, just like a curtain or a skirt, and that's it. Lock your pinky in with the rest of your hand, gather it up. And again, how can we check ourselves? We can see inside the net, right? See right inside the net. There you go. Okay. So again, remember, throw away the front part of the net. Hold on to the back part of the net. This time I'm not going to let go. And I'll show you, I'm not holding it with my teeth. It's just placed in my teeth. As I start coming around, I drop it. And I end up holding the net with my pinky on this right hand. And I'll show you right now. Start facing away from the bait. Come around. Look, you see, on that time, I never let go of the net. Okay? To exaggerate my point, you're throwing away the front part of the net. You're holding on to the back part of the net. In this process, depending on how fast you do it, this little tailing end will come in a little bit because it's a simple way of throwing the net. And you're not going to get that gigantic, big, full bloom. But if you have just this little end comes flat a little bit, that's fine. Get that net opened up that much every time. You'll catch more bait than you've ever caught in your life. I guarantee it. And then the second part of this demo, I'm going to show you an advanced way to throw the net. Do not try the advanced way until you've mastered the basic way. I'll show you the advanced method at the end of this video.
All right. So like Frank was showing you, when we created this, he really showed you a very simple way of throwing the net. I know, and I've seen, because I've done enough trade shows and demos, I've seen, the know-it-alls come up. There's the Florida way. You split the net into 3 different sides, and you put one over your shoulder, one over your waist. There's the pizza roll method. There are many different ways to skin the cat here. The reason we like this method, and as Frank was telling you, the best way to open up the net 90% of the time, and it opens up 90%, which is more than enough. And I kind of call myself the sham wow guy at these trade shows because I could literally take anybody out of the audience, women, children, that have never thrown a net, and at least get the net open more successfully than they've ever have. And that really shows you how simple this method is. And we've been using this method for a long time, and we've been teaching it to a lot of people. Once you learn, Frank was going to show you an advanced throwing technique, which, again, let's just keep this one simple and just show you how to throw this net an easy way. One of the things, the net that he was using would be a net that you would use for large menhaden, large mullet, large herring. It's a 1-inch net with a 2-inch stretch. Okay, so smaller baits will get either gill netted or they'll just simply swim through. This net here is strictly designed for large bait. Okay, the other 2 sizes that we have is a 3/8 net, mesh size, and that would be good for your 2 to 3 inch peanut bunkers, ballyhoo, mullets, pinfish. Those would be good for those type of baits. And then our smallest diameter net, which is a 3/16, that you could catch anything, rainfish, spearing. I once threw the net on a school of spearing and filled half a 5-gallon bucket in one throw. So those are your main mesh sizes. The one thing is you don't want to use a small mesh size for large bait because, as you could see, I'm going to show you kind of a quick demo of a peanut bunker net. The net doesn't sink as fast. So if you're looking for a faster sinking net on larger bait, then you would need the larger mesh sizes. This next video we're going to show is how to care for your cast net. And it's really important to, especially if you invest in a quality net, how to care for it properly, and it'll pay for itself after the first couple of trips. But if you could get a couple of years out of your net, you know, if you don't cast on pieces of structure or get too close to a dock, your net could really last a long time. So I'm going to go with this section right here, and we'll talk about the cast
you need to clean
keeping
and
it.
store the net. So the process would be to take the net, hose it out, stretch it out here, hose it out, and spread out the net a bit, get it more open, and spray the water through the net. Okay. What I would then normally do, especially if the net is dirty, is grab it, you can choke up on the net, slide your hand down, okay? Put the net back in the bucket, and then coil this back in around the bucket. Grab your line, throw it in on top. This really doesn't matter. Soap and water. What's good about the bucket that comes with this net is it's watertight, airtight. So you place your net in the bucket, you screw this lid back on here, and then you can have your soap and water in here and do a little, you know, dishwashing thing. Shake it up, let it sit a little bit, come back to it later on, open the net, take it out, rinse it off completely with clean water, and then let the net sit. The only time you're going to store the net in this bucket for any length of time at all is when it's completely dry. Every now and then, depending on how much you use the net, you may want to re-soften the net. 1 cup of fabric softener in with 5 gallons of water, leave it in overnight or 2 days at most, and then that's it. Pull it out again, repeat the process, rinse it with clean water, let it dry, put it back in the bucket dry. Okay?
All right, so I guess everybody's got the gist of it. You know, rinsing it out is very important, but more importantly, being able to have it dry is equally important. Another thing Frank was talking about too is the fabric softener. A lot of these nets that you'll purchase new, they're very stiff. Just soak them again, like 1 cup of fabric softener in a 5-gallon bucket, let it sit overnight, rinse it off, and I'm telling you, the net will be softer than you've ever seen. Again, keeping it dry is very important, and also storing it dry. Don't store it wet. Remember, it's mono. And don't leave it on the dock in the sun, because these are the things that are going to affect the mono mesh. So I got another video when it all comes together. I'll give you an idea of what it looks like. And here's a slow motion. This summer, we were casting on some small peanut bunker up in a creek, and you could see this technique in use and how effective it is. So here's Frank standing on the top of the front of my boat. We were looking for peanut bunker in the middle of the summer. That's generally when those fish are in these little estuaries, where the large menhaden are in the early spring, and then we see them again in the fall. But the peanut bunker, a great bait to use for stripers, blues, when we go offshore tuna fishing. It's just a great all-around bait. The only problem is they're just not as hardy as the larger bunker. And as you can see in the slow motion, arms are spread out, and the net, notice he doesn't let go of the net until he sees it fully stretched. And then there's the net landing on the water. Now, because it's a fine mesh net, you'll notice it's not sinking very quickly. So you'll notice that it's still floating, but it'll start going down. One of the keys people don't realize is that if you're using a net with heavy weight, you're better off using that net in a shallow water. So if you got heavy weights, use it in shallow water, because what happens is that the weight of the net will sink so fast that the exhaust of the water can't come through the mesh, and therefore the net will start to close. So if you're going to start throwing nets in deeper water, you want a lighter weight net, 1 pound per foot, because then the net will stay open in a larger area for a longer time. If you use the heavier nets, like down in the south in Florida, where the water is very clear, they want it to sink quickly and not very deep, then the heavier weight nets are better. And that's why a lot of net companies will make one mesh size and 2 weight classes, a light and a heavy. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is my second webinar that I've done, and it's kind of different than when I'm out in that seminar in a fishing show or something, because I'm talking to a screen and not visually seeing you guys. And if you come to any of the shows, boat shows that we're doing demos, make sure that you come up to us, tell me that you saw the webinar, and if you need help, I would love to show you firsthand how to do it. Also, go on to our website of Navionics, and you can see all the awesome webinars that some of the other Navionics pros are doing for both fresh and salt water. I have 2 webinars coming up, one next month and in March, and one in April, and one will be on live bait fishing for striped bass, and another one will be on wire line trolling strategies. I want to also make sure, if you have any other questions, please email me at agrassi@navionics.com. Guide Secret Tackle, the owner, told me that he's blowing out some 10-foot spearing nets. That's the 3/16 mesh size. I think he's selling, they're $260 nets. I think he's selling them for $100 a piece. Also, too, the webinar is recorded, so you could, if you need to go back and you need to look at some of the steps that Frank was doing, we have this recorded, as all our webinars are recorded. And again, please just go to our website, navionics.com, and yeah, let me see if I could figure out how to get some of these questions. Let's see. From Darren. Good day. I'm getting a lot of screen flicker. I guess it does get a little glitchy. We're really trying to get these videos, and I'm trying to do some live spots as well. And is the video available online for review later? Yes, you'll be able to review this as well. Anybody? Oh, one for my wife. She's telling me it's 7:35. So if you guys have any other questions, make sure you email me again at agrassi@navionics.com. And I hope you guys oh wait, I got another question. Let's see. Can you post Vimeo video numbers? Good. Website where you get the nets on sale. That's Guide Secret Tackle. Just email me, Keith, and I could get you the information. Again, these are quality nets, and they're all handmade. They're not crimped. They're all hand tied, so they're really, really good nets. And again, the better the net, and the better you're going to cast them. Also, you could go on our finchaser.com website. There's also other videos on there as well. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and have a great night and great fishing. Take care.